All right. Tara Sweeney and we ran the first breakout. And the question was basically, what's the best use of astronaut EVA time versus Earth-based team time? And that Earth-based part, I interpreted as either, what is best done back on Earth after the mission, or what is best handled in terms of data handling by the Earth-based team during an EVA. There's a few guiding questions that we sort of made our way through, and you can see them here. And then Tara was kind enough to take notes as we had our discussion. I went through and I highlighted, as I perused this in the last few minutes, some of the what I thought were the main sort of points that were brought up. One thing that the group really sort of latched onto was this question as to what difference would some of these instruments, remote sensing or handheld, have made during Apollo. So this counterfactual sort of thought experiment of what we would have gotten more out of Apollo had we had some of these instruments. And that's a question that's hard to answer. It's something that I think indirectly some of these analog mission projects are sort of trying to get at. But I think the answer to that, and I think the group would agree, the answer to that's going to be important for justifying the utility of instruments. Let's see, so another sort of related comment was, the question is, does the addition of handheld instruments improve what the astronauts do and their experience on the lunar surface? Recognizing that astronauts are not carbon-based robots, so we're not sending astronauts to the moon with these instruments just for the purpose of them deploying them. The purpose is actually for the technology to help us do the field geology in a way that we now do field geology here on Earth. So these tools are important to field geology on Earth in the same way as they should be important for how we do field geology on the moon. So that's an important point to not forget. Another really interesting discussion came up in this question about the technology readiness level, basically, of some of these instruments. And one suggestion was made that to bring the technology on early rather than later, so it's available for a mission, even if it's not used to its complete potential. Maybe it doesn't work all the time, but to have it early on, and perhaps that exercise can actually help refine that technology. The counter argument to that is, EVAs are not the ideal time to test equipment, and I think astronaut operators would probably agree with that. I would suggest maybe, and I didn't bring this up during the discussion, but it came to me as I was looking at this, perhaps use CLIPS missions as a way of bridging that gap to sort of test potential field instruments in maybe not an EVA setting, but at least in a lunar setting. There was a concern that adding technology for the sake of adding technology may not yield actionable value, and I think that's a point well taken, and it's sort of at the heart of why we're having this workshop, to think about the traceability between technologies and what value they'll have. So again, that came back to this question as to what would have been the historical value of maybe having some of these instruments during Apollo, and so there are some interesting thoughts on that. So I think that sort of highlights the main points that the first discussion group came to. If there's any questions from the audience, or Tara, if you're online, if there's anything that I missed that you want to add, or if there's any of the participants from Breakout Session 1 that want to add anything or correct anything I got wrong, please feel free.